Hey everyone, welcome to A Great Alternative. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to make this random weave basket inspired by the world of witches and wizards. Quick disclaimer, today's video is going to be a little bit different because it's going to be narrated rather than presented by me. Hope you enjoy. So, on a cold winter's day, myself, my pretty little helper, and the fantastic beast set out to do some harvesting. I was looking specifically for birch, downy birch or silver birch. I'm not certain which is which at the moment, so that's why I was looking for both. Ideally finding things that had either been cut recently, had fallen recently, but I did take a few twigs off of the branches themselves. Everything was harvested during winter time. I would try not to take too much off of any plant. Ideally, I was finding things, like I said, on the floor. Always checking and doing the wrist test before I take anything to make sure that it will be weavable. This was tied into small bundles and then stored in the shed until weaving, which in this case was a few weeks. Then it's time to head back out again to source some spruce root and find a nice spot to weave. There was a specific spot that I was planning to film this, where I'd film myself making a little twine spruce root basket the previous year. However, when I got there, although this did give me an idea. As the area had been recently felled, I decided to see if I could harvest spruce root from that location, because I was hoping that there'd be a load of it stuck up out the ground and just really easy to get to. That was the case, in all kinds of different shapes and sizes. So just like with any foraging trip, I turned into a little bit like a kid in a candy store, wanting to gather as much as I can, but it's not just for me. And I knew that for this project, I probably only wanted something around a pencil thickness. So I gathered only what I needed, washing and attempting to strip the bark. However, due to it being winter time, that wasn't very easy. So I went with what the materials were telling me and I just kept them as I found them. Lastly, to try and give a little bit back to this area in thanks for what it's given me, I planted a young tree that had been ripped up back into the location it came from. With all the materials collected, it was time to find somewhere to start weaving. So this is a super simple basket to make. Firstly, by grabbing your birch twig where it branches off and then bending it around and wrapping it within itself. The length and size of the branch will depend on how bendy things are. All of what I had was very thin, young branches, which were perfect for this small basket. Using another few pieces, I began to make the bones of the basket, tying them around themselves and jamming them into places so that it all stayed together. This for me can be the best and the worst bit. It's where your shape comes to life by continuing that random weave. One piece of advice I've had about creating random weave sculptures is that at this stage it's always to be thinking about anchor points, as these bones are what help hold things in place as you continue and can make your life so much easier if these bones are really held in as strong as you possibly can. Around this point, I was getting quite chilly in the wind, so I decided that it was a good time to move to a more sheltered spot and continue weaving. Let's take a break from the music for a little bit while I discuss the next section. So, to recap, after filling the basket with as many birch twigs as I wanted, weaving them in by using the thick end as the tip of the needle and weaving as if I was sewing with that needle. Sometimes I would keep a full branch together, and sometimes I would separate each branch out into its own separate weave. Then by bending it and shaping it over my knee, I ended up with this teardrop shaped basket. I quite like how this shape turned out and wanted to kind of emphasize the sharper end of the teardrop, and after playing around with the root balls, I felt that they would be perfect. So after checking that the roots I'd collected were still flexible enough, I wove them into the border of the basket. The only tricky part of this bit is to keep the root ball in the place that I want, but with a little bit of fiddling, often meaning that my left hand was holding while the right one was doing all the weaving, I managed to do that. As these pieces are more accents than structural, the random weave was kept really loose, sometimes leaving deliberate sections of the gnarly roots out and really emphasizing how awesome it looks. That completed my first weaving day. I then took the basket home and let it slowly dry out in the porch for a couple of weeks, mainly to see how loose the weave would be and if I'd need to put more birch in. As it turned out, it really kept its rigidity well, so I gathered the last few bits of materials and headed back out to finish it off. And finally, with the basket finished, it was time to add some wizarding goodies. So there we have it, my Wizarding World themed basket, full of goodies that would help the wandering wizard. I was really pleased with how this one came out, and if there's anything else that you'd like me to delve into deeper, please let me know down in the comments. Otherwise, thanks again everyone, and I'll see you in the next one.